both hands, which complicates employment of the 7-speed manual transmission. Armor. External image icon. The cavity in the cast turret image icon. Laminated turret matrix of the T-72B. T-72 a top view. This model sports thick dolly part-on composite armor on the turret front. Armor protection of the T-72 was strengthened with each succeeding generation. The original T-72 Ural Object 172 MS, from 1973, turret is made from conventional cast high-hardness steel, HHS, armor with no laminate inserts. It is believed that the maximum thickness is 280 mm, 11 in, and the nose is 80 mm, 3.1 in. The glacis of the new laminated armor is 205 mm, 8.1 in, thick, comprising 80 mm, 3.1 in, HHS, 105 mm, 4.1 in, double layer of laminate and 20 mm, 0.79 in, RHA steel, which when inclined gives about 500, 600 mm, 20-24 in, thickness along the line of sight. In 1977 the armor of the T-72 Object 172 was slightly changed. The turret now featured insert filled with ceramic sandbars, quartz rods, and the glacis plate composition was changed. It was now made up of 60 mm, 2.4 in, HHA steel 105 mm, 4.1 in, glass textolate laminate and 50 mm, 2.0 in, RHA steel. This version was often known in Soviet circles as T-72 Ural 1. The next armor update was introduced by the T-72 Object 176, which was designed in 1976 and replaced the original and the production lines during 1979-1985. T-72 Object 1976 is also known as T-72. With the introduction of the T-72B, Object 184, in 1985, the composite armor was again changed. According to retired Major James M. Warford, variants developed after the T-72 base model and T-72M/T-72 GMBT featured a cast steel turret that included a cavity filled with quartz or sand in a form similar to US fused silica armor. 47. The T-72 model 1978, Object 172 MSB4, which entered production in 1977, featured a new turret with special armor composed of ceramic rods. 48. The T-72 featured a new turret with thicker, nearly vertical, frontal armor. Due to its appearance, it was unofficially nicknamed Dolly Parton armor by the U.S. Army. 49. This used the new ceramic rod turret filler, incorporated improved glacis laminate armor, and mounted new anti-shaped charge side skirts. 50. The T-72M was identical to the base T-72 Ural model in terms of protection. 51. Retaining the monolithic steel turret. 52. The modernized T-72M1 was closer to the T-72 in terms of protection. It featured an additional 16 mm, 0.63 in, of high-hardness steel applique armor on the glacis plate, which produced an increase of 43 mm, 1.7 in line of sight thickness. It was also the first export variant with composite. Indian T-72 with explosive reactive era. Armor in the turret, containing ceramic rods. 53, sometimes called sandbar armor. 48. The turret armor composition was essentially identical to the T-72 Ural 1, whereas Soviet-only T-72s had slightly increased turret protection. Several T-72 models featured explosive reactive armor era, which increased protection primarily against high explosive anti-tank, heat type weapons. Certain late-model T-72 tanks featured Contact 5 era, a form of universal era partly effective against kinetic penetrators. It was added to the T-72 as a response to testing conducted by the Soviet Union against captured Israeli Magak-4 tanks, which found that the glacis of the T-72 could be penetrated with 105 mm M111 APTS ammunition. 55. Late model T-72s, such as the T-72B, featured improved turret armor, visibly bulging the turret front, nicknamed Super Dolly Parton armor by Western intelligence. 56. The turret armor of the T-72B was the thickest and most effective of all Soviet tank armor. It was even thicker than the frontal armor of the T-80B. 56. The T-72B used a new reflecting plate armor, Bronya Esotras Hayushkimi Listami, in which the frontal cavity of the cast turret was filled with a laminate of alternating steel and non-metallic, rubber, layers. 57. The glacis was also fitted with 20 mm, 0.8 in, of applique armor. The late production versions of the T-72B/B1 and T-72A variants also featured an anti-radiation layer on the hull roof. Early model T-72s did not feature side skirts. Instead, the original base model featured gill or flipper type HIMA panels on either side of the forward part of the hull. When the T-72 was introduced in 1979, it was first model to feature the plastic side skirts covering the upper part of the suspension, with separate panels protecting the side of the fuel and stowage panniers. After the collapse of the USSR, US and German analysts had a chance to examine Soviet-made T-72 tanks equipped with Contact 5 era, and they proved impenetrable to most Cold War US and German tank projectiles and anti-tank weapons. A US Army spokesperson claimed at the show, "The myth of Soviet inferiority in this sector of arms production that has been perpetuated by the failure of downgraded T-72 export tanks in the Gulf Wars has, finally, been laid to rest." The results of these tests show that if a NATO/Warsaw Pact confrontation had erupted in Europe, the Soviets would have had parity, or perhaps even superiority, in armor. 58. K-effective era, such as Contact 5, drove the development of their made 293 ammunition. 59. Late 1980s, Soviet-developed Object 187, or T-72B. It was a parallel project to Object 188, the T-90 tank. It was based on the T-72B, with a heavily modified turret. The Object 187 used composite armor for the turret, Super Dolly Parton composite armor, and the hull front, and IHA for the rest of tank. It possibly consisted of special materials including ceramic or high-density uranium alloys. Maximum physical thickness of the passive armor, not counting the reactive armor era, was up to 950 mm IHA. With Contact 5 era, T-72B's frontal armor was immune to the NATO's 120 mm L/44 tank gun. 61. However, after the Soviet collapse, the tank was not accepted. In 2021, Russian Army T-72B3s were seen fitted with raised mesh screens above their turrets. The screens appeared to act as a type of slat armor attempting to protect the tanks from top attack weapons such as the FGM-148 Javelin ATGM and small air-to-ground munitions fired from unmanned aerial vehicles, UAVs. 63. During the 2022 Russian invasion of Ukraine, the cages proved ineffective at defending the tanks and were removed. 64. Estimated protection level. The following table shows the estimated protection level of different T-72 models enrolled homogeneous armor equivalency, i.e., The composite armor of the turret of a T-72B offers as much protection against an armor-piercing fin-stabilized discarding sabot, APFS, round as a 520mm, 20 in. Thick armor steel model turret Sapfst Starret vs HEAT Halv Sapfst Shull vs Head 72 Ural, 51, 1973, 65, 66, 67, 380 410mm, 15-16 in, 450 500mm, 18-20 in, 335 410mm, 13.2 16.1 in, 410 450mm, 16-18 in, T-72 in, 1979, 1985, 68, 69, /1988, plus contact 1, 66, 69, 70, 410 500mm, 16-20 in, 500 560mm, 20-22 in, 360 420mm, 14-17 in, 490 500mm, 19-20 in, T-72M, 1980, 66, 380mm, 15 in, 490mm, 19 in, 335mm, 13.2 in, 450mm, 18 in, T-72M1, 1982, 51, 380mm, 15 in, 490mm, 19 in, 400mm, 16 in, 490mm, 19 in, T-72B and contact 1, 51, 71, 1985, 520 540mm, 2021 in, 900 950mm, 35 37 in, 72, 480 530mm, 1921 in, 900mm, 35 in, T-72B and contact 5, 71, 73, 1988, 74, 77800mm, 30-31 in, 1,180mm, 46 in, 690mm, 27 in, 940mm, 37 in. Possible easy replacement of contact 5, or 1, with relict. Relict defense against tandem charge warhead sound reduces penetration of APFS rounds by over 50%. 75. Calculation T-72B and relict VSAP FSDS, on turret 1050mm, on hull 950 1000mm. For T-90 MS relict is a basic set. For the T-90S basic set contact 5. 76, 77, 78, 79, gun. Polish T-72 firing during training. The T-72 is equipped with the 125mm, 4.9 in, to a 46 series main gun, a significantly larger, 20mm larger, caliber than the standard 105mm, 4.1 in, gun found in contemporary Western MBTs, and still slightly larger than the 120mm /L44 found in many modern Western MBTs. As is typical of Soviet tanks, the gun can fire anti-tank guided missiles, and standard main gun ammunition, including HEAT and APFS rounds. The original T-72 Object 172M, 1973, used a 26M2 model gun first mounted on T-64. The barrel had a length of 6,350mm or 50.8 calibers and had maximum rated chamber pressure of 450 MPa. The cannon had an electroplated chrome lining but lacked a thermal sleeve. The cannon was capable of firing 3 VBM-3 round with 3 BM-9 steel projectile sabot and 3 VBM-6 round with 3 BM-12 tungsten sabot APFS projectile, allowing respectively 245mm, 9.6 in, and 280mm, 11 in. Penetration of RHA steel at 2000 m at 0° angle. In addition to APFS's rounds, T-72 Object 172M could also fire 3 VBK-7 round incorporating 3 BK-12 heat warhead and 3 VBK-10 round incorporating 3 BK-14 heat warhead. Heat rounds allowed respectively 420mm, 17 in, and 450mm, 18 in. Penetration of RHA steel at 0° angle. The high explosive rounds provided included 3 WOF-22 with 3 of 19 warhead or 3 WOF-36 with the 3 of 26 warhead. For all rounds, the ZH-40 propellant was used. Complementing the original gun setup was 2 E-28M Siren 2-plane electro-hydraulic stabilizer allowing automatic stabilization with speeds from 0.05 to 6 degrees per second. Even as the T-72 Object 172M, 1973, was entering production, new ammunition was developed to offset armor developments in the West. Beginning in 1972, 2 new APFS rounds were introduced, the 3 VBM-7 round with 3 BM-15 tungsten sabot projectile and the cheaper 3 VBM-8 round with 3 BM-17 sabot but without the tungsten carbide plug. These allowed penetration of respectively 310mm, 12 in, and 290mm, 11 in, RHA steel at 2000 m at 0° angle. At the same time, a universal ZH-52 propellant charge was introduced. The 3 VBM-7 was the most common APFS round found in T-72 Object 172 tanks during the 70s. The stated barrel life expectancy of the 2A26M2 model gun was 600 rounds of heat forward/heat equivalent to 600 EFC, effective full charge, or 150 rounds of APFS. The main gun of the T-72 has a mean error of 1m. 39.4 in, at a range of 1800 m, 1,968.5 yard, considered substandard today. Its maximum firing distance is 3000 m, 3,280.8 yard, due to limited positive elevation. The limit of aimed fire is 4000 m, 4,374.5 yard, with the gun launched anti-tank guided missile, which is rarely used outside of former Soviet states. The T-72's main gun is fitted with an integral pressure reservoir drum, which assists in rapid smoke evacuation from the bore after firing. The 125mm gun barrel is certified strong enough to ram the tank through 40 cm of iron-reinforced brick wall, though doing so will negatively affect the gun's accuracy when subsequently fired. Rumors in NATO armies of the late Cold War claimed that the tremendous recoil of the huge 125mm gun could damage the fully mechanical transmission of the T-72. The tank commander reputedly had to order firing by repeating his command when the T-72 is on the move: fire. Fire. The first shout supposedly allowed the driver to disengage the clutch to prevent wrecking the transmission when the gunner fired the cannon on the second order. In reality, this still common tactic substantially improves the tank's firing accuracy and has nothing to do with recoil or mechanical damage to anything. This might have to do with the lower quality, compared to Western tanks, of the T-72's stabilizers. The vast majority of T-72s do not have FLIR thermal imaging sights, though all T-72s, even those exported to the Third World, possess the characteristic, and inferior, lunar infrared illuminator. Thermal imaging sights are extremely expensive, and the new Russian FLIR system, the Buran Catherine Thermal Imaging Suite, was introduced only recently on the T-80 tank. Autoloader. External video icon. Autoloader animation on YouTube. Like the earlier domestic use only T-64, The T-72 is equipped with an automatic loading system, eliminating the need for a dedicated crew member, decreasing the size and weight of the tank. However, the autoloader is of a noticeably different design.